to summarize how we compare with other people in 6 areas: religious participation, family life, drug use, alcohol use, happiness, well-being, socioeconomic status, and political attitudes and beliefs. Now, there are a couple of problems with these data. One is it's self-report, and people won't always tell someone doing an interview what they really did or what they really think. And another problem is sampling. They do national samples, and they send out interviewers, so they sample clusters, geographic clusters, and then send the interviewers there. So if in a particular survey they happen to get a cluster in Utah, they have more Mormons than average, but they're Utah Mormons. If they don't get any clusters in Utah, then they have below average Mormons, and they're not Utah Mormons. So there's always a little bit of problem, a big problem with sampling variability. That's why when we could, we tried to get comparisons from different surveys. What I'd like to do for the time I have left, and I hope they'll let me know when I'm done, is just give you a sampling of some of the information from the family chapter that I did, and then if we have time, answer any questions. What we try to do in this chapter is look from birth to death, kind of a life course perspective. So, under what conditions, to begin with, are LDS children born? One of these surveys asks women, age 14 to 45, of all those who'd ever had a baby, how did you feel when you found out you were pregnant? And here you can see the LDS response and everybody else in the country, and this tells us if the difference between those is statistically significant. Mormons are more likely to say they felt good when they got pregnant. More likely to say they're happy to be teaching and taking care of the baby. Happy to tell friends. But number one, and I love this one, this is on a scale of 1 to 10. Mormons score 9.4 on happy to go buy things for the baby. Compared to 7.7 at National.
Is that related to the bankruptcy rate? Credit card.
Good question. I don't know. Now, here's the bottom part shows some of the characteristics of the women. Now, maybe you've heard this image of Mormon women barefoot and pregnant. On the average, when LDS women are pregnant, find out they're pregnant, they're the same age as women nationally. They have more education. They have a few more children already. The baby is less likely to be born below the desirable birth weight, so the baby's healthier on the average. Employment, not a big difference there. Percent who use birth control before conception, and I've double-checked this, 80.5% exactly the same for LDS and other people. Percent who breastfed, a recommended practice for good health of the baby, substantially higher for Mormons. Percent of the mothers who are married at birth, substantially higher for Mormons. Married at conception, higher, and church attendance, higher. Now, let me show you one other. They asked the women if they wanted the baby, and LDS are more likely to say, yeah, I wanted this pregnancy and this was the right time. Fewer say, I wanted it but later. More say, I wanted it but sooner than I had it. You can't quite read this, but the don't care and unwanted are lower. A little lower for LDS respondents. So LDS babies are born into homes where there's more likely to be a mother and a father. The mother is more educated. there are a few more siblings, and the family goes to church more often. So already at the start, LDS babies are introduced into a family church-going lifestyle more often than is the case nationally. Well, that's, yeah.
Did you do any work where you tried to separate out groups that consider themselves religious, or look at any factors other than just the general U.S. population?
Did we look at groups that consider themselves to be religious? In some cases, and I'm not going to present this, we tested to see if the relationship between frequency of church attendance and a particular outcome, let's say I wanted a baby, if that relationship is different for LDS people than non-LDS people. Okay? And once or twice I'll note that difference. But usually religiosity promotes more of a family-centered lifestyle everywhere. But we'll see some cases where that's more true for LDS people. Let's jump right ahead to the teenage years. What's teenage life like? And this is the statistic that's got me into trouble more than any other, probably. The percent who have sex before their 20th birthday and before they're married. Okay? Now, my friend Bruce Chadwick does statistics for based on kids who should be in seminary and questionnaires sent to their homes, and his numbers are a lot lower than mine, so people would rather hear him speak than they would me. But my numbers are projections based on what we know of what will have happened by the time they turn 20. Okay? And here you can see, well, maybe you can't see, that's a little blurry, but nationally, in 3 different surveys, 80% of the population has premarital sex by the time they turn 20. For LDS people, the numbers range from 50 to 60%. So that's well below the national rate, but much higher than many people would like them to be. Yeah.
Are the national and church rates both lower under age 17?
Yeah, well, the median age now nationally is about 16 to 17. So by the 17th birthday, half of the U.S. population is sexually experienced. Now, the Mormons, the sample is small enough, I don't want to be too, trying to provide that too much detail. Okay?
Is there any factoring of church activity into this? Thank you.
Here we compare, in this case, respondents who said they attended weekly or less than weekly. And you can see there's a little difference in surveys, but if you look at the AdHealth and the NELS survey, for those who attend church less often, you won't see very much difference between the LDS population and the population nationally. But for those who attend church weekly, you'll see a big difference. So yeah, this is one case where religiosity really matters. Now there's another interesting difference here. Nationally, males and females are similar, or males are a little higher depending on which survey. For LDS, the females are higher. And there are different speculations for that. I think probably a lot of places people are dating non-LDS partners that the LDS are. And men are a little more likely to push to have sex. And so the LDS females dating non-LDS males are more likely to have sex than the LDS males dating non-LDS females. This is my guess, but I don't know. In many other areas, question.
Okay, since Clinton, the when the ones he interviewed, did they know specifically what was